Options and Living Options 101. We are going to just in 25 short minutes today review whether you should stay at home with in-home care or move to the various different types of senior communities. Yes, I'm calling them communities. They're not all facilities. They're nothing like you'd imagine. They're nothing like your grandma's nursing home. There's so many different options. And why I can say I'm an expert at this is my husband and I have our own business, Senior Care Options, seniorcareoptions.org, and we started this 7 years ago to help people at all price points try to navigate the different options, just like we're going to discuss today. But for 25 years, I managed some of the most luxurious, beautiful senior communities all over Southern California. And I literally have been in this industry since I was 19. That's over 40 years ago. So, you know what? I can honestly say that we may not know everything, but we do know a lot about senior care and options. So here we go. In 20 minutes, we're going to tell you all about your different various options. In-home care. Most people say, I just want to stay home. In-home care is when you hire private caregivers, hopefully through a licensed agency, so that we know that they're trained and that they have the right kind of background clearances and certifications that we'll need. But in-home care is when you hire caregivers to come into your home, whether it's 2 hours a day, 4 hours a day, 8 hours a day, or 24 hours a day. Now, in-home care is a great option, so you can get the care in your own home. What's the downside? The downside is that it ranges anywhere from $25 to $30 an hour if you go through a licensed agency. And there again, I do recommend you go through an agency so you don't have some stranger in your home. But if you do the math, $25 an hour even, it does really add up. There are people that I know that are paying $15,000 to $20,000 a month just to stay at home. Now, that doesn't always make sense. For most people, that would go through your home equity or your savings account very quickly. Other people say, you know what, I'm not worried about that. But let's just say you only need 4 hours a day of care. That might be the best option. At $3,000 a month, you have 4 hours a day of care, and when those caregivers come in, they can help you with cooking, cleaning, laundry, even watering your plants, taking you to the doctor. They can do a lot of things for you. You're not going to pay them $25 to $30 an hour just to sit and watch television with you. That is not great. Speaking about watching television, in the last year's news cycle especially, it has been wild with the pandemic and the election and the negativity on the news. Sitting at home watching the news is not the most healthy thing to do. And I really say that you can have the best fun time of your life living in senior care and living options. From independent living to assisted living, there is so much fun in senior living. But these places really vary. You can just get an independent senior apartment with no meals. Maybe they do have activities, maybe there's transportation, but no meals. Then there are independent living communities that provide 3 meals a day, activities, and transportation, but they're not licensed to be assisted living communities. So if the day comes that you need care, you need to hire those same very expensive private caregivers to come in. So that isn't always the best option. My favorite option is to have a community where you can come in rather independent, where the people are still hip and happening and fun, and you can have your own, whether it's a studio, a 1-bedroom, or a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment, you choose depending on your budget. And you can actually have the privacy of your own apartment, but at your disposal, there are 24-hour caregivers. There's even possibly 24 hours of licensed nursing. That's what really differentiates a place. Like, why is one place $3,000 and one place $5,000? Well, some of the more expensive communities actually have nurses on 24 hours a day, even for independent and assisted living, just in case there may be an emergency that arises that you might need a nurse. A nurse on hand is very handy, especially if you're a diabetic and you may need insulin injections down the line, because having a nurse on staff in assisted living gives them the opportunity to be able to help you with some of those skilled nursing type things like an injection or possibly, light wound care or diagnosing the situation and analyzing it and having interfacing with your doctor. And if the nurse at the senior facility can contact your doctor, they can even take a written order over the telephone, which is then backed up by an actual hard copy of that written order. So there are lots of different benefits of having nurses, even in an active senior community. Those seniors communities range, there's so many of them, there's hundreds and hundreds of them in every county. And they range from smaller 6-bed board and care homes, which I'll talk about shortly, to 200 to 300 bed communities. Most of the communities on an average, though, are going to be anywhere from 80 to 150 licensed rooms where you can have, there's so many studios, so many 1-bedrooms, and so many 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartments. Your base rate includes 3 meals a day, which nowadays, they treat these assisted living communities almost like a cruise ship that never sails. I know right now cruises are not that popular, but for many of you, some of your fondest memories were on cruises. Now, when I say cruise, just think about that analogy. You move into the senior community, you pay a fee for your apartment. Your apartment could be anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000, $6,000 a month, depending on the location and the type of apartment. Your base rate, let's say it's $3,500 for your 1-bedroom apartment, and then you are getting minimal assistance with bathing and dressing and maybe some medication help. So on top of that $3,500, you're going to pay, let's just keep the math simple, $1,000 worth of care. So now you're at $4,500 a month, and that's your care. And you have an individualized care plan. You may only need medication help. So then you'd only pay $3,500 and maybe $500 additional dollars for medication assistance. You may need no help at all, but you just want to take advantage of meals that are delicious. Most of them have really great gourmet chefs. You're going to have a full-time, 7-day-a-week activities program. There's transportation options to the doctor's appointments, shopping, banking, and also, under normal circumstances, they love to go out to restaurants, out to lunch bunch. There's movie times, there's trips to museums, and they usually take scenic rides down to the ocean a couple times a week. It really, truly can be like a cruise ship that never sails. Your one price, let's say your base rate, includes all your meals, all your utilities, and everything except for your personal telephone, which most people nowadays have a cell phone. And then those assisted living costs are added on as a la carte charges, which makes it fair. You don't want to pay for care you don't really need. But some people choose to go into these 6-bed board and care homes, which they're residential care homes. Those homes are, they might even be right next door to you in your average neighborhood. Generally, they're larger, 5, 6-bedroom homes, but they are licensed for 6 to 10 residents, depending on the size of the home, and they generally have an all-inclusive pricing, whether it's $3,500, $4,500, $5,000, whatever it is, whatever they agree to charging you, whether it's a shared room or a private room, then they will bundle the services together. So if every move you make depends on care, that will be included in the price that they chose to give it to you. So anyway, so far we've reviewed staying at home with in-home care. We've reviewed independent living apartments, independent living apartments with meals and transportation. And then we've talked about those multi-use assisted living communities that have independent and assisted. The other thing are memory care communities. If you have a little bit of memory loss already, you're not going to necessarily have a diagnosis of Alzheimer's or dementia if you just have a little slight mild cognitive impairment. But the chances are, if you already are getting quite forgetful, I would recommend that you move into a senior community that has independent, assisted, and memory care under the same roof. Because if you do need help with, maybe you become a resident that is an elopement risk, or you're needing a lot of cueing and reminding, the average assisted living community might say, yeah, this person's probably going to need our memory care. But if a person leaves the building, let's just say you're so forgetful, you don't even remember that you live there, and you get up at 2 in the morning and you walk out of the building, and yes, that does happen. If you do not know, are not oriented to time or place anymore, it's just not safe to be in assisted living. That is when you really should be in a secured memory care. Now, memory care communities are specially designed and have specialized training for the staff. And if you are already showing signs of some kind of memory loss or going into that early dementia, there's unfortunately a very good chance that you might need a secured memory care. And some of the senior communities, if the doctor on your physician's report says that you already have a diagnosis of dementia, even if it's just very mild early stage dementia, some of the communities do feel like you do need to be in memory care. And a lot of families and seniors do not want to live in a memory care if they just have real mild dementia or early stage dementia. That is where talking to a senior care expert really comes into play, because not all senior communities will take you in assisted living even if you're just got mild dementia. So sometimes it's better to be in a memory care, even because so many of them have areas with early stage dementia or mild cognitive impairment. And why would that be better than being assisted living? It's because they have specialized activities for people that have early stage. It's like they have memory enhancement classes. And it's kind of like being in a summer school class all day long, every day. And they help you in fun activities that actually help your memory. You can actually build cognitive reserve by doing certain types of activities. And they don't have to be complicated Sudoku or crossword puzzles. Even doing simple crafts and word games and trivia and just being with groups of people and just having some fun and reminiscing about your favorite vacations or what's your favorite recipe to make for Christmas. Just having that type of socialization is healthy for you. For all of us, it's like isolation, like what we've had in the last year, is one of the worst things that we can do. Not only for depression issues, but also for cognitive issues. And studies have shown that after about 3 months of being in one of these memory enhancement programs, you can actually build back some cognitive reserve. And boy, it's like that old saying, if you don't use it, you lose it. So if you're just sitting around watching television all day and not really using your head, your recall, as you probably have noticed, you're not as sharp as you used to be. So being in a memory care community and being in the right one is key. The ones that are divided into mild cognitive impairment or early stage, then moderate, then more advanced dementia, they just do wonders with people that have these memory care issues. And it also puts them in a position where they're not always waiting for care. Nothing is worse than being in an assisted living community and you have early stage dementia and you're sitting in your apartment worrying about, when is the caregiver coming? I don't even know what I'm doing here. You're going to be at the bottom of the class. It's almost better to be at the top of the class in a memory care community where you're not just frightened and worried about what time is it or who's going to help me and what am I doing here. So it's, I have seen it firsthand where it's like dropping a child off at kindergarten and wondering if the parents are going to pick them up. That's how it is with someone with early to moderate memory care issues when they're in assisted living and they really need more supervision. You're not doing someone a favor by putting them in assisted living or moving them to assisted living. I shouldn't say putting them in. Because honestly, when I managed these senior communities, and I started out in activities many moons ago, working in these communities and all the fun they have in the communities is amazing. So don't look at what you're giving up. Look at what you're gaining. Because you can bring your furniture. You can bring your favorite family pictures. You can bring your pet, your dog or your cat if they're not too large, to the senior community. You're not giving up a lot. You're gaining a lot. And that is, I think, the number one thing that I love to tell everyone. Your life can begin at 80. Or one story I can tell you real quickly is a family member told me that I told him that, the dad came in kicking and scratching, and he did not want to move in. Well, he ended up going on every single trip that the community ever did, every out to lunch bunch. He won second place in the Halloween costume contest, and they said to me, after he passed away, they said, Cathy, you told me that he's going to be having so much fun that you're going to need to get him an answering machine. This is when answering machines were kind of new. And you're going to have to get him an answering machine because he's never going to be in his apartment. And they said, boy, were you right. He did not want to move into senior living, but you know what? His last 3 years of his life were probably some of the happiest times. And I could almost cry talking about that. Don't look at what you're giving up. Look at what you're gaining. Senior living can be fun, fun, fun. The amount of friends you can meet and the amount of opportunities to learn and grow and do things for other people. It's a whole nother world can open up in senior living. So whether it's independent living, assisted living, memory care, one of those 6-bed board and care homes, all of those are good choices if you need senior care. But the main thing is not about the care, it's about the socialization. I can honestly tell you, I really do miss the fun in senior living. And I'm stressing the fun a lot because it is fun. It's don't dread moving yourself or your loved one to senior community. Don't just move into the first place you see because there's a lot of them out there, hundreds and hundreds of them out there. And I would check them out. I would go to each place 2 or 3 times and really do your due diligence before you move. But there is, a whole nother world could be opening up to you in senior living. It's, these are not your grandma's nursing homes. There is a lot of great stuff and a lot of things that do happen, and it's a lot of fun and socialization. So you're probably wondering, how much do these senior living communities cost? Well, I kind of threw out some numbers like $3,500 to $5,500. Well, it really just depends. Everything from $2,000 to $10,000, and maybe some can go up from there. Some actually are called continuing care retirement communities where you actually buy the right to live there, and you put up an upfront fee, $200,000 to $1 million, depending if you're on the ocean versus, inland somewhere. So there's so many choices. There again, I say get yourself a senior care type of consultant to help you with this, because whether it's a board and care home or any type of these senior communities, they are going to range in price. And but the good news is, except for the buy-in communities, it's a month-to-month rental. And what I mean by that is, if it's $5,000 a month, you pay that $5,000. You can stay there for a couple months, and if you decide you do not like it, the good news is, all you need to do is give them a 30-day notice, and you're out of there. And I think that's comforting, because I don't want my entire life savings tied up at a place and thinking, okay, I don't like it, now I'm stuck here. On that feeling stuck, I will tell you a neat thing. Most of the time, a lot of places will have like a month, they call it a vacation resort stay or a respite stay. You can actually go in and try some of these places for a month. But I will tell you, if you give it a month to 2 months, most of the time, 90% of the time, maybe 95% of the time, most people actually love it. Just moving in and the dread thought of moving and what to do with all my stuff, that's a whole nother video, is what stops people from making the decision. But if you can actually go in and take a furnished apartment sometimes in some of these communities. I recommend, though, bring your artwork, bring your knickknacks, bring your favorite, bedspread. Make it as homey as possible. That's going to make the difference. Hang all your family pictures on the wall. Make it as homey as possible, because that's the difference between staying in a hotel or a motel versus this is my home. And what's nice about, you could lock your door and go to activities, go to exercise classes, do your thing. But when you're tired of people, then you go to your apartment and have your privacy. Now you're probably wondering, will long-term care insurance pay for this? Yes, if you have it. And there are, we can go into that more in person someday or on another, you can call a consultant for that. Or there's something called VA aid and attendance if you served in the military, or if you were married to someone who served in the military. If you served in the military for 90 days and at least 1 day during an active wartime, you or your spouse, if you or your spouse did, you can possibly get benefits. And that can be explained to you by a veteran's aid and attendance consultant. That is a way to pay for this, and not all of it, but a good chunk. Like our sister-in-law, her husband passed away, and she's getting almost $1,300 a month to pay towards her assisted living community. That's always something. And then some people qualify for Medicaid or Medicare assistance, and that Medicare isn't going to ever cover assisted living, but that may cover nursing home care. I am not a nursing home expert, but generally people do not actually spend the rest of their life in a nursing home unless they're on Medicaid money. But in California, there is something called the Assisted Living Waiver Program, that if you qualify for Medi-Cal, which is Medicaid in California, there is a way you could possibly have the Medicaid cover your assisted living, and that is going to have to be explained to you by a consultant as well in detail. But most of the communities are just going to be private pay. Now, if my husband or I, if we need assistance down the line, we'll just have to sell our home and use our Social Security and maybe some of the money out of our savings account or some of the equity in our home and pay for assisted living that way. That's how most people do pay for assisted living. Let's just use the $5,000 again. If you're getting $2,000 a month from Social Security, you're going to have to pull $3,000 a month out of your savings account or the equity out of your home to pay for your senior care. And the good news right now, the way our real estate is going, seems like homes our prices are up high, so a person's going to just sell their home and put the money in the bank. That's how most people do pay for it. They take their Social Security and pensions, and then they add to it with their savings, their proceeds from their home, or their money they have in the savings account. So that's a little information on that. Now, how are these senior communities licensed, or who monitors them, or is there any kind of agency that will come in on any complaint? Yes, they are licensed by, each state has their own governing agency. In California, they call it the Department of Social Services. Nursing homes are licensed and governed by the Department of Health Services. But they will come out on any complaint. And the facility must give you all the licensing information and their contact numbers if you have any concerns whatsoever. I always advise that you try to work things out with the administration before ever contacting the state. But if there's a problem in these senior communities, whether the care is not good, they don't have heat, or the food is substandard, by all means, contact the state and report them, because they do need to be reported if they're not doing the right thing. Every senior community also will have the opportunity for an ombudsman to come in and check out things. That's another layer of protection. So you have the Department of Social Services, and then you have the long-term care ombudsman. Both of these agencies will come out on any complaint, and if a person is living at home, then they're under, you contact the county Adult Protective Services. Elder abuse is on the rise, and there's financial abuse, and there's also emotional abuse, and there's physical elder abuse. There's several kinds of abuse. So if you suspect any type of abuse, whether it's at a facility or in someone's home, please contact the right agency, whether it's Adult Protective Services, the Department of Social Services, or the Ombudsman Program, and they will come out and check out any complaint. Thank you for having me today, and I hope to